I'll invite here to the stage Elīna Vikmane, and with the topic of museums in digital age. Please, the stage is yours.
I can start?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Hello, my name is Elīna, and today I'm going to share my stage with three wonderful specialists, and together we are going to engage in a discussion about museums in digital age. So I think I can start with introduction. Elīna Vikmane is the director of the Cultural Heritage Governance and Communications International Master's Degree Program at the Latvian Academy of Culture, and a board member of the Latvian Museums Association and Latvian Contemporary Art Museum Foundation. Her research interests include sustainable development, digital innovation in museums, and the diffusion of innovation. As our second guest, Associated Professor Dr. Simona Grigaliuniene is the head of Department of Technology at Lithuanian Business University of Applied Sciences. Simona has a doctoral degree in technology and experience in research projects. And lastly, Elīna Bērziņa is the head of education at Latvian National Museum of Art. Her work is mainly concerned with museum accessibility to various audiences, sustainable museum practices, and the role of cultural institutions in the well-being of society. Elīna has led some of the most innovative and extensive museum education projects in recent years, receiving acknowledgement from diverse Latvian organizations and institutions. So, starting with the first question. Digitalization as a trend has changed the world and the field of culture very noticeably in the last few years. These changes were undoubtedly accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which gave an opportunity to develop new methods and concepts of exposition using digital technology at a faster rate. And could you please name me a few examples of how museums as an institutions have changed in the last 3 years? I think we can start with Elīna online. Elīna Vikmane?
I'm sorry. Hi. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm happy to share some preliminary data on digital innovations in museum. The recent study, the ongoing study we're having here in Latvian Academy of Culture. And I would say that I'm happy to receive this question because museums we see digital innovation during the pandemics, how the numbers have risen. For example, a 24% raise in online educational activities. Approximately 50% of museums will join the e-ticketing system. We can see changes in social media use, the extensive social media use in museums to connect the communities. So we see a really positive trend in a field of digital innovations in museum during pandemics.
Thank you, Elīna. Simona.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me be here. And I would probably agree with Elīna. From my perspective and what we did the research, so in Lithuania, basically, there was an increase, yes, of course, of e-ticketing also, yes, but mostly we can see that the museums has adapted these virtual tours, yes, that are more used nowadays, yes, when we can reach and just by using the computer, see some details that are in the museums. As you know, when we are coming in the museum, yeah, we have some, not all of, we can have a lot of time to go to each object, yes. In the museums, there are a lot of objects. And in this case, we can just at home sit down, relax, and see these objects in the distance. Also, I think that there are more possibilities for the disabled people, in this case, to see the museum, more activities done by the museums online, like workshops, for example, for students, for schoolers. And if I would say maybe more interactive virtual possibilities for also some artists in this field. So thank you.
Elīna, what's your opinion?
Yes, hello everyone. I absolutely agree with Elīna and Simona was already said. Digital bloom has entered the museum field the same as everywhere else. What has caught my attention and what I really like to follow how it will develop is museums entering digital platforms of popular culture. And Elīna already mentioned the social media platforms. And I really enjoy seeing cleverly utilized social media platforms by museums. And by cleverly, I mean when I see that the museum is not just present there, but really understanding the nuanced ways how these platforms can help them to convey their message and the information that they have. And we also, I'm very glad to see more and more museum content appearing on Netflix, Apple TV, HBO, and I think this shift is really there, and it will develop further. This was the first year when YouTube creators, content creators, social media creators were invited to Met Gala, which is a big event, a museum event. Of course, it's organized together with Vogue, but still. So I think we can see a shift there, and I'm quite glad about it.
That's great, actually very amazing. And you all mentioned these new possibilities online and digitalization. And therefore, I wanted to ask the second question. And the second question is, what are the most important digital processes, as there are so many, and technologies being implemented in museums? And how can they help us to change and improve the environment of museums? Are there challenges as well? Simona, let's start with you this time.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I think on my opinion, and when we did a research in Lithuania about these virtual museums is, I think that with virtual tours, yes, that are mostly adapted for the disabled people, helping them to reach the museums more often. And I think that maybe this also improving the environment of the museums when there is a possibility of some factors to be exposed in just a virtual way. Yes, for example, new artists can be a part of the museum in this case, being in some virtual galleries. Yes, so just possibilities for a bigger round of people, maybe I would say, using the museum activities. This is my opinion. Thank you.
Elīna here.
Yes, of course, accessibility definitely has been one of the main advantages of digitalization. However, I've seen that sometimes the form is taking over the content, and digitalization is becoming a bit of we're playing with buzzwords, and that is something that I find problematic. As you ask, what are the problematic issues? And I really enjoy conscious, calibrated digital tools and aids that cultural institutions produce. However, I think that we also need to talk about over-digitalization when it comes to museums, and that museums can also be a place for digital detox and for alternative sensory experiences where we can escape this digital world. So on the one hand, I agree that these tools are amazing for accessibility and for faster and safer ways how to consume museum content, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget about museums as places for something else than just digital world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what are your thoughts, Elīna Vikmane?
I would say that my study shows that the most important is the shift of thinking. Study shows that 92% of museums acknowledge that digital tools help museums to stay relevant in contemporary society, and 87% thinks that it's very important to be popular among communities. Nevertheless, I think that the most precious asset, the collections of museums, are hardly available for public, and I think that the collection digitalization is one of the most important trends in the heritage sector. For example, here in Latvia, just 5% from all museums have 100% collections available online. So I think that these two are very important trends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. As you, Elīna, mentioned about this this thing that museums have to also say have to preserve this physical aspect, and where you can basically be in the museum not only digitally but also more traditionally. I wanted to ask, for some of us, museum is this romanticized place where one can wander around exhibition halls, admire objects with cultural and historical value, art pieces, archaeological finds maybe, and now that there are more and more museums, and they include different interactive possibilities in their permanent expositions, and some even offer these interactive online courses for school children of different age groups. In your experience, what has the public response to the digitalization of museums been like? Like, for example, as you mentioned, and are people keen on actually using these possibilities? I know it kind of resembles the first question, but I want to make sure. So, Elīna Vikmane, please.
Oh, I would say that we have still plenty of museums where you can wander around alone and to enjoy. And it is another social role of museum for therapeutical reasons or some other reasons if they are implemented knowingly. And painful situation is with museums, so-called dinosaurs, who have survived through the centuries, but have not developed their social role in a purpose. So that would be the first part, and respect to like the second part of the question regarding the divide. I think that the youngsters are the group who can't imagine the museum without digital technologies, but the elder visitors definitely enjoy museums with digital innovations as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Simona?
Thank you. This question is actually one of my surveys that we did in the university. And seeing the statistics, I can say that in our survey, about 50% of respondents said yes, that digitalizations are really necessary in today's museums. But I fully agree that we have to save these museums that we had, yes, this possibility to go around, sit next to the art manners, yes, and just relax in the silence, yes, being with yourself. But as today, we cannot escape from the digital processes, yes, we have to be, as we say, smart and digital. And of course, young people in the schools and the students, they are already grown in this digital world, yes, and for them it is crucial to have a possibility to know and to learn in the museum in the digital way. So I think that the museums has digitalized only a part of their work, yes, and they should stay the same and also digitalized in one spot, in one way. So I think it is about 50% now, and I see that the tendency is to grow, that more and more people will adapt these digital processes. Yes, we will learn that this gives us a possibility, yes, to know the art in a different way, in a digital way. Thank you.
Thank you. Elīna, please. Online.
Oh, I think I already answered. So
sorry, Elīna. Yes, you, Elīna.
Yes, as we already have discussed in this discussion, there are different museum functions, and the digitalization enters these functions of a museum differently. For example, when it comes to buying tickets online, I think the public really now thinks it's just a must. It's quite normal, and it's expected that the museum will sell museums will sell their tickets online. Or when it comes to collections, I think the general awareness in the society that these collections should be available in one way or another, it really depends on the level of education and involvement with the specific theme that the museum represents. I'm an educator, so I can comment on that more. When it comes to communication and education from the side of the museum, I think that tech companies, startup companies have really set the bar very, very high of what a digital tool that entertains and educates should look like and feel like, and the bar is very high. So in cases when museums meet that bar and add their unique value, I think it's always very well received. However, when the work is a bit sloppy and already not keeping up with the times, and the content is not very relevant, that's a different story. And that is something that I have noticed with the museums, that they are very eager to produce these tools and aids. However, they are not that good with agile thinking, that they should improve this product over time, that they should really keep up with it and see how what works and what doesn't work. And usually it's just dropping that product and, okay, that's done. What is the next thing that we do? And I think that with sustainable digital practices, that's not really the best approach. But when it's done properly, I think the public very much enjoys these tools and aids.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, are there any questions from the online or from anyone here? No? Okay. then I have a question of my own. We are talking about this digitalization and these good practices and examples in Latvia, but you also mentioned Met Gala and how it is very important also internationally. And I wanted to ask, just out of the blue, how do Latvian museums do when we speak about this competition between okay, not only Latvians, but also Baltic museums and the museums in the whole world? So what can we show as something unique and interesting that only we can offer in this field platform? Maybe some of you have some ideas? Yes? Please, Elīna.
I personally think that the age of blockbusters is in the past. We are talking about museum capacity to be local, to work on local communities. And I don't believe in the idea of unification of museums. And if we talk about the economy of scale, then definitely we should think what is worth the money we spend. And definitely some museums will go cyber mode and will be mentioned as an examples globally. Some will be hybrid, as most museums around the world, and some will go without the touch of technologies. And maybe this might be a new trend, because we see that sometimes when we are behind some kind of trends, they already end, and we are on the wave of the second trend. So I don't know how it will go, but it's sure that the digital copy will never become as powerful as original, and this is worldwide, and the other is marketing and personal ambition.
Thank you. Yes, Elīna?
Yes, I think that there's a spectrum where you can look in on the one end there are like completely analog museums with no digital practices, and on the other hand there's like a fully digitalized museum that is perhaps online, and nothing on the spectrum is good or bad. It's just, it offers different kinds of experiences, and all of those experiences should be valued because all of them bring something different to the table. And I think this whole spectrum should be covered and not just represented heavily on one hand. And when we have that, I think it's good. And the person can choose what to look for themselves, and not every museum should also duplicate itself in the digital environment. It's not very sustainable, it's not very smart. It really should depend on where the requirement of something digital is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Simona?
Well, as the question was about the Latvian museums, as I'm from Lithuania, I don't really could say really much, but for my opinion, maybe I would agree in one way. Yes, of course, maybe I would say that these digital processes really do more help people internationalize aspects. Yes, that then from other countries, people are coming, they can choose these virtual tours with, for example, English language, yes, adaptation, for example, in the Lithuanian museums. And in this case, if I travel alone, I can just go around, listen to the with my iPhones, yes, and just see the object more closely, yes, in this way. So in some aspects, I think that I really fully agree. It depends on how the museum wants to be seen, yes. Is his way of being more international, yes, and attracting more people using these virtual tours, or being more in social media, or it is more for educational prospects, yes, for example, in Lithuania, interacting more young people from schools, from universities, yes, and working together in some projects. So I think there are a lot of ways how to answer to this question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I see that we are closing into the end of our discussion, and at the end I wanted to ask one very future-orientated question, if I can say like that. It is safe to say that a lot has been done up until now regarding the various forms in which the digital world has introduced itself in the everyday life of museums. However, in my opinion, this also presents a lot of exciting possibilities for the future. How do you view the future prospects for museums in digital age? Can we expect fully interactive and technology-based museums? Maybe even internet-based ones, where exposition would be fully digital and only physical spaces would be reserved for the conservation of museum collection and workspaces for museum specialists? Who feels like answering first? Yes.
It somehow feels that we covered this issue in the previous question. I believe that, yes, there will be samples, I'm sorry, of cyber museums, but museums mirror the society. Museum employees also mirror the society itself. So, and a lot of issues and digital innovations are implemented by museum employees and their ability to connect with other sectors. So, and so I believe that when the new generation of museum employees will be the critical mass, we will see another jump in the innovation. I see the risk there as well, because museums should be for all. And the risk of fully digitalized museum is that some parts of visitors will not find themselves comfortable in museums. So museums should be very careful about it. And museums are very careful. And if we talk about the digital innovation, that I think that the museums are in the beginning, they are not skyrocketed if we compare it to another sectors. So there's a long way to go.
Thank you. Elīna?
I believe there are already fully digitalized museums, as you mentioned, that only exist in the digital space, and physically only the artworks require some kind of space, physical space. I think there's a very wealthy Dutch family, Kramer family, that has created such a museum. I'm not sure how publicly available it is because I visited the museum during a conference. And I think that this process of digitalization and introducing new technological tools really depends on the type of the museum. For example, museums of technology and science and even natural history, I think there's a lot of opportunities how technology and digitalization can really help to elevate their exhibitions and their displays. However, I'm from an art museum, and I know that there is something that you can't really replace in art, and there is something special and something that you can't really put in words. That happens when you visit an art museum and you really connect with an artwork. And you can create tools around it to give context, to help to research, to help to understand. But this physical experience is irreplaceable.
Thank you. And Simona?
Yes, I would probably agree with the speakers that already named the possibilities. Yes, I think that, of course, the museums and the digitalization in the processes will increase, yes, but this will depend on how the country, how the museums will be willing to do that more, yes. It's up to the, of course, the visitors. How will they react and what are aspects given from them, yes, like I think that the museums have to know that there will be facing also some threats due with these maximum digitalization processes like cybersecurity threats that we are dealing now, yes. And of course, by being some artificial really factors in the internet space, we have to take that into account, yes. But in other case, the digitalized processes can really give more if we can not only see but touch it in some digital way or see the processes. As you know, sometimes we say that one picture is more than 1,000 words, yes, when we see some art manners, yes, but in other case, when we see the full stage, like a video, yes, like being around in 3D model and seeing all the concepts, it also gives us a lot, yes, in today's this fast moving world. So I think that there is a lot waiting for us in this area in the future, and we just need to wait a little bit and we will see. Maybe we will discuss that in 5 years, what were our perspectives. I am hoping, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating in this discussion. I'm very happy to hear these many opinions, also to learn something new for myself as a history student. And I want to thank you all also for participating and listening to our discussion. Thank you.